Hi, my name is Elman Angel. Thanks for tuning in for another episode of APTV. Today I got my friend Jason Holmes from the retail group, TRG. Jason's one of 3 owners of the business. You are a
problem solve. I'm
for retailers from petrol stations to fast food to supermarkets to landlords to tenants. If there's a problem, he'll find it and he'll solve it. I've had the pleasure of working with Jason and have seen it firsthand, and it's great to see what problems you can avoid by some basic checkpoints. So I think there's a lot of takeouts in this one.
Thanks.
Jason, you are a part owner in a company called TRG,
Correct.
which stands for The Retail Group.
Yep.
And you guys love retail.
Super love retail.
And you work for retailers doing what?
Problem solving. We're designers, we're architects, we're building designers, we're interior designers, and we problem solve. So we do a lot of work for a lot of corporate retailers, and we work both sides. We work landlord side, we work corporate side, we work client side, which is your major chains in food and non-food. And yeah, we take their briefs and we develop their ideas into hopefully a product that can be delivered.
So on your website, you have major clients like Holmes, Woolworths, Savers, drive-thrus, Hungry Jack's,
Myers, a lot of the QSR brands.
So what do you do for them?
We look at it ranges from anything from detailed design, documentation, feasibility studies.
When we want feasibility on their build?
Yeah, feasibility on their build. We've got an opportunity on the site. We want, whether it's a greenfield site or a brownfield site or an existing building that they want to refurb or restructure for the landlord or for the chain directly. So we'll go through that and we'll take their brief and we'll do everything from that initial sort of concept, design, feasibility element right through to town planning, through to construction documentation, tendering, and then overseeing that on-site construction phase.
How many years are you doing this for?
25, 26.
And the biggest problem you solve?
Building is not an exact science, and a very now retired builder once told me that very early on, but we are in an environment that's not an exact science. So look, I think every day is a challenge, but there's no challenge that can't be resolved. It's more about managing the narrative and the stakeholders and the expectations. So yeah, there are lots of challenges, and there are some big ones, there are some little ones. But again, with the right, we've built up a strong band of relations with not only our clients, but our partners, our sub-consultants and people that we work with, and you find that they support us, and together collectively we can always come to a good outcome.
So the biggest problem you got?
No, look, you know what I'm going to say, there's not been much out there that we haven't resolved.
So I've met you because we're looking at a older building where a major restaurant group is looking at, and you did a thorough due diligence on the building, which took time, but saved us so much time, frustration, cost, and unknown. So, I mean, just seeing how you've kind of did a full deep dive into the building, you're able to present to the owner more about his building than he would ever have known. Yeah.
And look, when you say what's the biggest problem, biggest challenge you've ever had, I think that is probably one of those challenges is that in the environment that we're in, especially in the retail space, we understand it's all about speed, because until the doors open, the registers start turning, no one's getting any money. So we understand that, and we try to bring a bit of balance to that. But at the same time, what we say is the narrative is the life cycle of a project from start to finish is the life cycle. We just want to spend the right amount of time at the right end of that life cycle. So let's not spend the time at the end. Let's try to bring it to the front. And what we find is where if we can coach our customers and clients, or our clients and our partners through that process, and similar to that project you referred, it is about there's something there. Before we start making changes to it, let's find out what we actually have. Let's understand what the foundation is we're about to build on.
I mean, working with you, I thought the biggest risk and problem was the unknown, and you kind of eliminated that through.
There's always unknowns, but it's how much you eliminate. The thing is with buildings, we know that it is what it is effectively. It's just when do you want to find out about it and when do you want to deal with it. Our approach is let's deal with it on existing, even on new sites or greenfield sites. Let's deal with the stuff up front.
So you and I have been looking at some CBD buildings and opportunities to bring solutions to owners. In some instances, they don't actually know they have the problem, which would help lease their property or help increase their profitability or bring down the running cost.
Or make their building safer.
Any good examples?
From it doesn't matter where it is, but I think from a building perspective, especially if you've got an existing asset, similar to a car, you will buy a car and you will service and you will maintain that car for the duration of its life. Now, buildings are not. People buy buildings and they sit there, and predominantly a lot of them just sit there and they turn over a rent and they provide, they do the job they're meant to do. But in the background, like a car, if you're not maintaining, if you're not upkeeping them, they are getting older and they need love. And the issue is that everything's okay until something goes wrong.
Cool. Nah.
Right. So our sort of approach is, well, it's not too hard to find out what you've got. Let's not wait till it becomes an issue and be reactive about it. Let's try to be a bit proactive. And look, historically, the building and construction industry is, rules and regulations are born out of events and disasters and tragedies. We have an opportunity to be ahead of the curve. And then landlords have the opportunity to be ahead of the curve and make sure that their asset is where it's got to be, so that when they want to do something to it, it's not we've got to fix, years of legacy before we can actually do the project.
And what's a common theme you see when you're going into these older buildings?
I think a common theme is, especially with tenants, because not everybody knows the building code, not everybody knows the rules, not everybody knows the regulations. And, there are things like exit signs and, the way doors should function. But ultimately, over time, people just stack things in certain places. People use things the way they shouldn't be used, and things break down and things don't get followed up. And if things aren't being maintained regularly, they end up staying there. And then if something goes wrong and a person can't get out of a building, or if there's an issue and something
Talking about
like a fire exit, if something, and even in the latter, the building codes haven't even caught up to this, but even in recent times, an emergency was predominantly connected to fire, and that's what the building code talks about. But the building code, still also needs to, in my opinion, needs to do a little bit of catch up, because an emergency is not just a fire anymore. It's someone walking into a shop with a machete. It's someone, if you want a passage to escape, if the door's not operating as it should, because it hasn't been checked as it should, there's no fire alarm, but, you're, as a human, you want to get out of the building, but you can't. So an emergency is not, and that's the other thing, an emergency is not just a fire.
Yeah.
An emergency could be any event that threatens someone's life.
So you're involved in petrol stations? You develop petrol stations?
Petrol stations, yep.
Where's that going?
Oh, look, I think petrol stations are going to be around for a long time. There's certainly an electric conversation in terms of, when are we going to be not the internal combustion engine, and when are we going to be going in and rapid charging our cars? And I think, rapid charging will come there at some point, but I think the fuel sector is quite strong, and to be honest, I think it will continue on. I'm not seeing it slowing down.
There are cars that are stopping to make petrol cars.
Yeah, but the other thing too is
big car brand.
Yeah, exactly right. But there will always be a need for someone to go rapid charge that car. So, I see the future as someone's going in and going, instead of spending 3 minutes at the Bowser putting fuel in, you're spending 3 minutes at the Bowser rapid charging your car. So that's where I see it going.
But they're still building petrol stations with big tanks in the ground.
Absolutely.
Because they'll be replaced with power stations soon?
And look, possibly, but I think there'll always be a need for petrol stations, and petrol stations are not just about petrol stations anymore either. They offer a whole range of convenience. You can go in and get your dinner, you can get your staples, you can get what you need. I'd almost, not that I know the numbers, but it'd be interesting to see how many sales at a petrol station actually occur without any purchase of fuel. So that offering is becoming sleeker, it's becoming smarter. Petrol stations are not dirty buildings, they're clean buildings, they look good, and they're more than just fuel sales. But EV is something that will occur, but I think it'll still be in a petrol kind of world.
I mean, there's less and less petrol stations in inner city. It's getting more and more difficult to find. You do work with the supermarkets.
Yep.
Not any specific one, but generally. Are you seeing any shift in how those being built into the future?
Sustainability.
So what does that mean exactly?
Sustainability is, that much or this much, but I think the sustainability from the supermarket's perspective is, the majors have their own targets that they're on the journey to hit.
Are they on target
from a zero carbon? Look, the narrative that we hear is absolutely they are. And, and I have no doubt that they'll get there. But what we're trying to do is take that narrative and feed it back into a lot of the renewal projects and where we're refurbishing stores and those sorts of things, because sustainability is not just limited to one location or a new build. It can be you can refurbish a store that's 30 years old. And, we've had some examples where we have implemented some sustainability initiatives where we've made it better than what it was yesterday. So this building is healthier and doing more for the environment today than what it did yesterday.
Other than sustainability, what else are supermarkets doing to change? I'm not talking specifically Australia, just globally. You follow trends around the world.
I think they're challenging customers, and I think customers are challenging them, because every day customers want something different. And it's about trying to understand what the customer wants and giving the customer options on flexibility, on product range, on speed. Like you talk about speed to market. So when they go in, do they necessarily even have to go in to the store? The click and collect, sort of direct to boot offerings and the independent offerings with regards to online ordering, and then people are going and just turning up, and that sort of we're seeing a big shift in Australia where those rollouts are still occurring. COVID has sort of moved on a little bit, but that offering that really spiked during COVID has that sort of service has maintained.
And it's here to stay.
Customers want that.
Absolutely.
And we're investing a lot of time, and our clients are investing a lot of time in making sure that service offering is there, because it's about convenience. It is about speed. It's about people don't want to be lining up in a queue, and you're going to find technology is going to come into play too. Like the majors have different ways of checking out now. It's not just your normal self-checkout. You've got belted self-checkouts, and there's different types. So you just like a normal register, but not manned, or not personed, I should say. You pull up with your trolley and you put your goods on the conveyor belt, and it goes on, and it's a self-scanning belted checkout.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So, there's going to be more of that stuff, and we potentially will get to the point where you throw your groceries in the trolley and
they do that. Amazon does it. Amazon Go, where you just put.
I don't reckon we're that far away.
It's happening. Another retailer I read is doing that. Uniqlo, you just pour your stuff into a bucket.
Yep.
It gives you a price, you pay it, and you take your clothes out.
The technology's there. It's just about how it's rolled out.
Yeah.
Technology's already there, so it's just about how it's rolled out.
What are some of the trends and changes you're seeing with the fast food chains? Are they getting bigger? They're getting smaller? They're getting bigger kitchens? Like, where is it going?
No, I think. Look, there's a spray of different things. I think some are staying very true to the knitting and really targeting that fresh, on-site cooked. You know what you're getting, and you know what you're paying for, and it's good quality, and it's a proper meal. And speed. So others are doing similar sorts of things as well. But I think from a QSR or a fast food retail perspective, again, I think it's just they're challenging probably their offering in their market in terms of, they want their customers to be able to have a wider range of selection, because everybody's a lot more conscious nowadays, and people want choice and people want options. From a consultancy perspective, from an architectural and design perspective, our challenge is, how do we get the right fit on more constrained sites, because land is a challenge. We try to go into existing sites and reconfigure and reset and rebuild. So the challenge is, how do you fit that model into, not the ideal space? And that's where you sort of come down to compromise. But again, and they're the daily challenges and the problem solving that we just do as part of the process.